All right, I will call three related Randall County cases. In that case, Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the children. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the father, Mark Ochoa. He is not with us and not in the waiting room. Ms. Grant is with us representing the mother, Miss Little, who is with us. Then I will also call cause number 831. Again, Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram for the child. Mr. Jackson's with us representing the mother. In that case, Miss Garza, who is with us. Ms. Kincaid is with us in that case representing the father. Again, Mr. Ochoa, Mark Ochoa. He is not with us, not in the waiting room. And Mr. Jackson is with us representing the mother. In that case, Miss Garza, who is with us. Finally, I'll call cause number 72. In that case, again, Ms. Wiggins for the department, Mr. Ingram for the child. Mr. Michelson is with us representing the father. In that case, Mr. Massey. I show he's incarcerated. I don't know if he still is, but he is not in the waiting room.
Your Honor, we filed an order to appear, but I don't see that he's present.
No, he's not. Ms. Kopp is with us representing the intervenor, Mr. Joseph Massey, who is also with us. Miss Grant again is with us for the mother. In that case, Miss Little. All right, she is with us. I think I've covered everybody. Tamara Martinez and Joshua Woodruff are in the waiting room.
Tamara is my work caseworker, Judge.
Okay. Do we know who the other one is? Joshua Woodruff? No? Okay.
Judge?
Yes.
I don't know who Joshua Woodruff is, but since we've asked, or since Mr. Michelson asked for Mr. Massey to appear, that could be the prison.
Somebody from the prison. Let's just get that person in, see who it is.
Judge, I call Tamara Martinez.
Thank you. Mrs. Wiggins?
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Martinez, are you the caseworker for all of the children that were called in this cause?
Yes, I am.
And we'll just take them one case at a time. Where is she currently placed?
She is currently placed in a foster home.
And how is she doing in the foster home?
She's doing good there. She's doing well in school. She's just a happy kid.
Okay. And is she having visitation with her parents?
She's having, yes, she is.
And in regards to her mother, was there a home study done on her mother?
Yes, there was.
And she lives in the Houston area, is that correct?
San Antonio, I think.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. And did the home study come back positive?
Yes, it did.
And are there plans to move the child to placement with her mother?
Yes.
And when is that expected to be?
We are going to move her on March 11th.
And is the child excited to move back with her mother?
Yes, she is.
And they've been having visitation, is that correct?
Yes, they've been having virtual phone calls.
And regarding the father, Mark Ochoa, has he been communicating with you?
I've only had one conversation with him.
And has he been complying with drug screens recently?
He did not attend the one in January. I did not get him sent last month.
And regarding his services, has he been working his services?
He is working some of them.
And regarding, let's see. When was the last time you had contact with him? You said you've only had contact with him one time, is that correct?
Yes, it was, sorry, I have to look. The last time I talked to him was February 15th.
And did he indicate or talk to you about his recent drug screens?
No, he did not.
And did he indicate why he did not go to drug screen in January?
No, he didn't.
Are we asking that he be ordered to hair follicle and UA drug screen today?
Yes.
Now, is he aware that the child is going to be placed with the mother?
I have not talked to him yet about it. I was going to talk to him this week.
Now, regarding Draco and Aviana, I'm sorry, where are they currently placed?
They're placed in the same foster home as Aurora.
And how are they doing in that foster home?
They're doing good.
And Draco, he had some medical needs, is that correct?
Yes, he does.
And what kind of medical needs does he have?
He recently got a feeding tube in January, at the very end of January, due to he wasn't growing He wasn't gaining weight and he wasn't gaining length. And he's also struggling with solid foods. He will choke on them. And so right now they're currently holding off on giving him solids. And then was also struggling with his formula, but I think they got a new one to help with that because he was throwing up a lot. He's got a lot of delays. He attends occupational therapy, physical therapy, and then feeding therapy.
And the father of those two children is Mark Ochoa as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the mother of the children is Scarlett Little. Is that right?
Yes.
And how is Miss Little progressing on her services?
She's completed her service, the majority of her services. She just moved into a new home over the weekend, so I haven't been able to check the new home. I have talked to her about attending Draco's appointments, so that way she learns more about Draco and his needs and how to meet those needs. And then I did talk to her about the concerns of Aviana's behaviors after visits.
Okay, and what are her issues after visits?
Aviana has started to not, so they had Aviana completely potty trained. She has started to pee on her bedroom floor, and then her sister will tell her to go hide. And then Aviana is starting to kind of withdraw. She used to, she's a very lovely child, wants to be held and cuddled, and she's starting to withdraw. I know when the visits first started, Aviana was asking who Scarlett was. It's my understanding that that is getting better.
Okay, is Aviana in counseling? I know
Yes.
she's 3.
Yeah, she's in counseling.
Okay, and obviously they've been apprised of the issues that are going on with her.
Yes.
And regarding, let's see, Miss Little, is she currently employed?
Yes, she is.
And does she have any sort of plan for care for the 2 children if or when if they're returned to her in the future?
She plans to put the children in daycare. I did talk to her about, I do not think there's a daycare in Amarillo that will take a child with a feeding tube, but that would be something we need to look into.
And did she seem to understand the issues that Draco currently has?
Yes, I think so.
And has she attended any of the appointments for Draco?
Not yet. I'm just getting that set up for her.
And let's see, are there any services or any drug screens that we need to request mom complete?
She's been compliant.
Okay. And you indicated that she moved into a new house. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you haven't been able to see that house. Is that right?
correct.
And do you know why she moved?
She told me that she was moving so that way Mark would not know where she was living.
Did you receive any information that was contradictory to that?
I was notified that she had lost her HUD housing and needed to be out by the 1st.
Now, let's see. Regarding Mr. Ochoa, Mark Ochoa, has he been going to visitation?
He has attended, I think, 3 out of several. We moved the visits to Tulia so that way Draco wouldn't have to travel all the way to Amarillo. He's attended only 2 of those visits, and the 2 that he attended was because Miss Little had taken him to the visits so that he could see the children. I've offered transportation help if he needs it. He has not requested assistance with transportation.
And are we still concerned about the contact between Miss Little and Mr. Ochoa?
Yes.
Now, where is she currently placed?
She is placed with her grandfather.
And how is she doing in that placement?
She's doing great there.
Okay. Is she doing well in school?
Yes.
Is he taking care of all of her medical needs?
Yes.
And is she in counseling?
Yes, she is.
And is she having visitation with her mother, Miss Little?
Not at this time. She is not.
And why is that?
My understanding was that her therapist was not going to make a recommendation on it because she was not mom's therapist and didn't know how mom was progressing. I have reached out to Aurora's therapist. She is currently on vacation through today, so I'm hoping to talk to her this week about visitation with mom.
Okay. And I guess at a minimum, would we be inquiring as to whether or not this counselor could do family therapy or observe any type of visitation between the child and mother?
I was going to ask her about doing therapeutic visits with mom.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Massey is still incarcerated. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And is he in a federal penitentiary?
Yes.
And is he aware of the child's current placement?
Yes.
And is that where he would like the child to remain?
I have not asked him on that.
Okay. Has he voiced any objection?
No.
All right. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you. Excuse me, Ms. Grant.
Tamara, is it your understanding that the reason Scarlett lost her housing was because she can no longer get the HUD subsidy for the children without having custody of the children?
Yes.
So that's no fault of hers as far as moving. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And has she obtained housing that she has indicated to you has room for her and the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And was it also a requirement of the department that she live in a home that Mark was not on the lease?
Yes.
And so that corrected that issue that was a problem in this case. Would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is giving you concern about her and Mark still having contact?
She's recently reported to me that Mark broke out her back windshield of her car. And then over the weekend, she reported that Mark was threatening her. But prior to that, she was took him to his visits on a couple weeks ago.
Okay. So if Miss Little is unable to get a protective order through the county, would you agree that perhaps a no contact order in this case would be appropriate at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
He continues to damage her property and harass her in several ways. Has she reported that to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything she can do in other than make police reports and seek help that you would recommend for her that you would require?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Have you been given copies of the police reports that have been made with each incident?
No, ma'am, I have not. I just got this case recently.
Oh, that's right. My apologies. We can get you copies. Do you have any services that you are asking the court to add today for Miss Little?
No, we just need her to attend appointments for Draco.
Okay. And you're setting up the notification for her to start doing that each time that she's able, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And will you be able to give her enough notice to ask off work so that she can keep her employment as well, you think?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask the placement for the schedule of his upcoming appointments.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you, Judge. You said that Mr. Ochoa had completed some of his services. What services has he completed?
So he completed a 10-hour parenting class online. He completed his OSAR, but he did not complete the Padre program that was recommended.
Okay, and so the remaining services are either in progress or he needs to begin?
So the remaining services are he needs to finish BIP classes, which he is attending. Like I said, he was discharged from the Padre program, so he would have to reach back out to Antonio and get those reset back up. And then he was also asked to complete rational behavior, and he hasn't completed that at this time.
Okay, and has he stayed in contact with you since you took over the case?
No, ma'am. The only contact I've had with him was on February 15th.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Martinez, Mr. Ochoa, I'm showing he was positive for cocaine as late as December. And then I believe Ms. Wiggins asked you about, he failed to attend a drug test in January. Is that a concern as far as him having visitation?
Yes, sir.
Are y'all asking that I stop his visitation till he gives clean UAs and hair strands?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Let's see where we're at here. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Martinez, I represent Ariana Garza, the mother of Aurora, and you had mentioned Mark Ochoa. Has Ariana, have you had a chance to visit with Ariana in regard to messages she's been getting from Mark Ochoa?
I haven't received word on any recent messages she's gotten from him.
Okay. Are you aware that he has sent her threatening calls and threatening messages?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to any of this as hearsay.
Sustain.
Your Honor, the statements are statements of a party opponent.
Well, you can call your witness to testify exactly what he said that was threatening to her. I think that's the way to handle it.
Yes, sir. Again, you said that the department was going to reunify Aurora with Ariana on March 11th of 2024. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's my understanding that there's a dismissal date on this case. It's scheduled, is set for May 20th of 2024. What are your future plans? What's the department's future plans as far as this child is concerned, Aurora?
If we're going to place her with mom on March 11th and then closely monitor the situation.
How long do you anticipate monitoring?
That really depends on how everything goes.
I understand. Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Michelson.
Thank you, Your Honor. What efforts have been made to engage Mr. Massey in services?
I've sent him a letter in February. I just recently got that case, so I don't really have the answer for that.
Okay, and you said you sent him a letter. Did you get a response from him?
I just sent it at the last week.
Okay, so is that a yes or a no? Did you get a response from him?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. What are the alternative long-term plans for the child if it's deemed unsuitable to reunify the child with the father?
If we can't reunify the child with the father or the mother, we would like her to stay with her grandfather.
Okay, pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Kopp.
Thank you. Ms. Martinez, your report indicates that Scarlett isn't taking responsibility for her actions. What do you mean by that?
I know I have concerns with the statement that was made that Draco came into care perfectly healthy. And then there's the concerns of her and Mark.
Why does it concern you if they're not taking responsibility for their actions?
Because of Draco's medical needs. And the injuries that he had.
And what about the other children? Why does that concern you for the other children's safety?
I mean, if they're not taking responsibility for one child, for their actions towards one child, it's a safety concern for the other children.
What is strike that. Pass the witness.
Okay. Let's see, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right. Anyone have further questions for Ms. Martinez?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Wiggins, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. We rest.
Okay, let's start down the list. Ms. Grant, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Kincaid?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson?
Your Honor, I'll briefly call Ariana Garza.
Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, Ariana, is it the case that you have recently received threatening phone calls or text messages from Mark Ochoa?
Your Honor, I'm
Yes.
going to object to these again as hearsay.
Overruled. He's a party.
Thank you, Judge.
Yes, the most recent one was yesterday where he was calling my phone regarding Miss Scarlett. Miss Little, she was just asking if I knew her whereabouts and where she was at, and just threatening me, saying like if I wouldn't tell him, if I knew, he was gonna try to like mess up me getting my daughter in the reunification, leads ending the conversation, telling me to kill myself, and he wishes death upon me, and just hanging, like he just hung up after that. But it's constantly where he just blows up my phone with different numbers. I'm having to constantly block him. He constantly messages me about money, and if I like, he throws fits if I tell him no, I'm not going to be giving him no money and not to contact me unless it's about our daughter, which he never contacts me regarding the child. It's always about money or the whereabouts of Miss Little, which I don't know.
Okay. And are you concerned about any possibility of having contact with Mr. Ochoa?
Honestly,
Would you be concerned
yes.
for your safety?
Yes, I feel like his mind and where he's at in this moment is not right. I feel like he's lost. He's just out spiraling. And I know he's been on drugs myself, because I have sent screenshots to Miss Martinez and to the old caseworker where he has been talking about how he's been distributing drugs and how he does take them.
Do you think, you think it would be beneficial to you and your child for the court to order a no contact order with Mark Ochoa at this time?
Yes, if it doesn't involve my daughter, I don't feel like me and him should have any contact.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Wiggins, any questions for her?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Grant, any questions?
Just one, Your Honor. Ma'am, do you have any knowledge of Scarlett Little struggling with the same interactions with Mark Ochoa?
I've heard somewhat about it from
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
I've heard about it from like friends, like mutual friends that we've had, and from his mother also, because his mother, he does involve his mother in the conflict, and his mother has told me.
Okay. But as far as you know, as of yesterday, she has successfully kept him from knowing where she is, correct?
Yes, that's what I know.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Kincaid?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Michelson?
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Kopp?
No questions.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
Okay, I think I hit everybody. So does anybody have further questions for Ms. Garson? All right, then.
No,
Mr. Jackson, did you have any other witnesses?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Kincaid, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Michelson, witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Ms. Kopp, witnesses?
I'd call Scarlett Little. Miss Little, when did you notify HUD that you didn't have custody of the children?
I had talked to them about it when the children were removed.
And you are currently on probation, is that correct?
Yes.
And a condition of your probation is that you remain in Potter or Randall County without, unless you get permission from probation, is that correct?
Yes.
To your knowledge, is San Antonio, Texas in Potter or Randall County?
No, but I did get permission.
Did you get permission to go to the Coyote Ugly Bar?
No.
Then why were you at the Coyote Ugly Bar?
To go out.
Are you aware that a condition of your probation is that you cannot go to bars?
Yes.
And you went to Coyote Ugly anyway?
Yes.
And then you posted it on your Snapchat, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that that is a violation of your probation?
I am.
Pass the witness.
Anyone have questions for Ms. Little?
Without telling me your address, what city are you residing in?
Amarillo.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
Anyone else?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any further witnesses? Okay, then Mr. Ingram, recommendations?
Yes, sir. I'm going to take it one case at a time, if I may, to try to make sure I keep it straight.
Sure.
With regard to Aurora continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue her placement as is today with no objection to her placement with her mother, Ariana Garza. I believe they said on March 11th. They have no objection to that. I believe placement with mother is in her best interest. Also feel like it's in her best interest that there be a no contact order entered between Mark Soria Ochoa and Ariana Garza. With regard to Aurora, continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue placement with her grandfather as is. She's doing very, very well with her grandfather. Very pleased with that. Believe it to be in her best interest that if any visitation is to begin between and Scarlett Little, her mother, that it be therapeutic visitation. With regard to the case on with Aviana and Draco, continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue their placement as is. I believe that placement's doing a very good job dealing with Draco's multiple serious medical issues. Also, in that case, I believe it to be in their children's best interest that there be a no contact order between Mark and Soria Ochoa and the mother, Scarlett Little. With regard to visitation of Mark Antonio Ochoa, believe it to be in children's best interest that all visitation of his be stopped until further court order. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to take these one at a time also. I'm going to start with the case on Draco and Aviana. In that case, I will continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue those kids' current placements. I'm going to order Mr. Ochoa both hair strand and UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today. I'm going to order that his visitation be suspended until he provides the department with a negative hair strand and UA drug screen. I'll order that there be no contact between Mr. Ochoa and Miss Little. And nobody mentioned this, but it was requested in the reports I read. I'm going to order all of these cases to mediation as requested by St. Francis and the department. I will continue the department's temporary managed conservators, continue the current placement. I'll approve the placement back with Ms. Garza on March 11th, 2024. I'll order that Mr. Ochoa both hair strand and UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today. I'll also order that his visits be suspended until he provides the department with a negative UA and hair strand drug screen. And I'll order no contact in that case between Mr. Ochoa and Ms. Garza. And again, order mediation in that case. In the case of the department's temporary managing conservator, continue the current placement with Mr. Massey, Joseph Massey, and I'll order that any visitation between Aurora and Miss Little be therapeutic. And again, in that case, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't have Mr. Ochoa. Okay, I'll order mediation in that case too. All these obviously can be had at the same time. I don't really know. Y'all can decide if you want the mediations all together or if that's going to just be too cumbersome. So, but I will order mediation in all the cases. In all these cases, I will set the final for April 29th, 2024. I understand sometimes there's problems getting these into mediation, and I will note that this case has a dismissal date of May 20th, and it has not been extended. So if we have to extend a while to get the mediations done, y'all just make me aware of it. So,
And Judge, just for the record, we did file a jury request in the Massey case.
Okay. I did not know that. Thanks for pointing that out. I think maybe Haley knew that. Okay, so one of those is going to change. We'll probably be the jury trial, may be the one that has to get changed, but we'll go to work on that now. So, okay, that will conclude these cases. For those of you involved, Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the child. Ms. Mullinax is with us representing the mother. Ms. Thompson, who is with us. The father, Mr. Eaton, is not with us. However, there's already been an interlocutory order of termination on him, so I wasn't really expecting him. All right, then. This case was set for 11:15. It's now 11:23. As I said, we'll proceed in Mr. Eaton's absence. Ms. Wiggins, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I'd first want to start with my exhibits. I'd like to offer Petitioner's Exhibit 1. It is the Northwest Texas Hospital Records. A business records notice was filed October 20th of 2022. I'd like to offer Petitioner Exhibit 2. It is a drug screen for Candace Thompson on October 12th of 2022. Business records filed October 20th of 2022. I'd like to offer a certified copy of the service plan for Candace Thompson. That's Petitioner Exhibit 3. Petitioner's 4, certified copy of additional services order for Candace Thompson. Petitioner Exhibit 5, it's a drug screen from Candace Thompson. I apologize, Judge. For May 17th, 2023 and June 16th, 2023. Business records was filed July 11th of 2020. I'd like to offer Petitioner Exhibit 7. It's a drug screen for Candace Thompson. August 3rd of 2023, business records filed September 1 of 2023. And then I'd like to offer Petitioner Exhibit 9. It is an article entitled Neonatal Abstinence Syndrome, published in the New England Journal of Medicine.
Objections?
And Your Honor, I'd object to relevance on that one. That specific article talks about neonatal abstinence syndrome with regard to opiate use, and I don't believe that that's an allegation in this matter.
And Judge, just for the court's edification, we did include that article for the general information regarding neonatal abstinence syndrome, its definition, what generally the symptoms are, in conjunction with the hospital records that were previously admitted.
All right, I didn't print the whole thing. It was quite lengthy. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to reserve ruling on that. And then if we need to take a break at the conclusion of the hearing or whatever, you can kind of point out what pages have to do with the general information, and I might could look at those pages, and then I could still sustain Ms. Mullenax's objection with it has to do with opiates as opposed to anything else. So let's take that up at a later time.
Okay.
So, okay. All right then. With that having been said, then Ms. Wiggins, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I call Peyton Sims. And what briefly were the reasons for removal?
The child was in the hospital being born, and mom tested positive for methamphetamines as well as the baby's meconium.
And Your Honor, I would object. The medical records do not reflect that she tested positive for methamphetamine. They reflect amphetamine, and so I believe that's a mischaracterization of the evidence.
All right. Again, I don't have the entire Exhibit 1.
I'm sorry. I want to clarify. I mean the mother, not the child.
Okay.
And Judge, I would like to point out that we also entered the drug screen results from positive hair follicle from October 12th of 2022, which was around the time of the child's birth.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just for the record, the child was born on October 7th, and so the hair follicle was taken on the 12th, and so I don't think that has anything to do with her testing positive for methamphetamine at the time of the birth.
Well, I'm gonna read it, and if it's amphetamine and not methamphetamine, the court will take note of that. So, all right, let's proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Were there any other additional issues or concerns the department had at the time of removal other than drug use by the mother?
I believe the department was also concerned with the mother and the father being in the hospital and possibly trying to remove the child from the hospital's care, even though the hospital directed that the child needed to stay in care in order to receive medical treatment.
Now, after the removal, did you create service plans for both parents?
Yes.
And at this time, Judge, since the father's already been terminated, I'm going to focus just on the mother.
All right.
And regarding the mother, did you create a service plan for Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
And what were the goals or services directed towards for Ms. Thompson?
Complying with each requirement of the family plan, providing information to the department in a timely manner, maintaining regular contact with worker, locating and maintaining stable housing, locating and maintaining stable and appropriate employment, demonstrating proper parenting techniques, participating and completing parenting classes, living a drug-free lifestyle and doing drug screens, participating and completing substance abuse assessment with OSAR, seeking medical treatment for her C-section, and individual counseling, psychosocial assessment, and that was the original family plan.
Okay. And in regards to, and let me pull it up specifically so I can it. There was also where we requested the court to order additional services. Is that correct?
Yes.
And those services were domestic violence support group, couples counseling with Kevin Eaton, and successfully completing the PAJE program. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, since she was no longer in a relationship with Mr. Eaton, did we kind of abandon or indicate to her she did not need to complete couples counseling.
Yes.
Now, regarding the service plan, has the mother maintained contact with the department?
Yes.
Has she maintained stable housing?
No.
Okay, can you describe her housing situation during the course of the case?
Yes. So starting at the beginning of the case, she was living with Mr. Eaton. Probably the summer of 2023, she did have to move out and she relocated to a domestic violence shelter in Amarillo. And then she moved to a different one in Dumas. And then she moved back to Amarillo briefly and lived with some people that she knew of. And then finally in February, she did get a lease on a new townhome.
Okay. And so
Okay.
previous to, oh, I'm sorry.
February of what year? Just be sure the record's clear.
2024.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Wiggins.
Thank you, Judge. And Ms. Sim, previous to that, had you visited any of the locations that she was living?
I visited the house that she was living in with Kevin.
And were you able to visit any of the other locations that she was residing in previous to the February 2024?
I did go to the DV shelter in Amarillo, and it was appropriate.
Okay. Were you able to visit any of the other locations she was visiting or staying with friends?
No,
And why was that?
just never did. I think that we mostly met at the office during our face-to-face visits.
Did she give you information of where she was living each time?
Not direct information, no.
So at some point in time, some location, she did not give you the address. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Now, regarding employment, can you explain how her employment has been through the course of the case?
Yes. At the very beginning of the case, she did have some medical issues with the C-section, and so she was unable to work. However, she did very well dealing with her medical issues and was able to be reemployed at a laundromat. At some point in 2023, I believe in the fall, she was fired from the laundromat for maybe not being there on time or having to request off time to complete services. And then she was rehired at the laundromat in 2023, sometime in October, and has been employed there since.
And sorry, Judge. Now, regarding, let's see, has she provided pay stubs to you?
Not pay stubs, no.
What has she provided to you for proof of employment?
I was able to call her employer and confirm her employment there.
Now, you indicated she just got a lease on a house in February 9th of 2024. That was in your report, is that correct?
Yes.
And have you been to that location?
Yes.
And did you see anything that would be harmful to a child?
No.
Now, in regards to the service plan, she also was asked to visit with the child. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the visitation set up to be?
Currently, she sees Kenna on Tuesdays and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
And has she been consistent with that visitation?
She goes to most of the visits. There are a few visits that have been canceled due to work, sickness, and weather.
Now, in regards to transportation, does she have transportation?
Yes.
And does she have appropriate driver's license for that transportation?
Yes.
Now, regarding the rest of her services, did she successfully complete the Padre program?
Yes.
Did she attend the domestic violence support group?
Yes.
Did she complete an OSAR assessment?
She completed 2 OSAR assessments.
And did she complete the recommended treatment for those OSAR assessments?
Yes.
Did she complete her psychosocial and counseling?
Yes.
Now, what is the department's main issue regarding the mother in this case?
Our main concern is that Candace continues to not participate in drug screens. If she is doing drugs, this impairs her ability to safely supervise and care for Kenna at this time. Also, stability is a concern, being that she just got housing in the month of February and has had multiple other residencies during the duration of the case. We're concerned about impaired judgment. She did complete 2 OSAR assessments and did daily recovery, but we have yet to see any improvements coming from that service being completed.
And so one of the services you indicated was that maintain a drug-free lifestyle and to test for the department. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when was the last drug screen completed by Miss Thompson?
I went to her house last Thursday. I believe it was last Thursday, and did an oral drug screen. However, that's not going to come back. The last one she completed was in October of 2023.
Okay. And that was a UA, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was negative, is that right?
Yes.
Now, did you send her to drug screen on November 2nd of 2023?
Yes.
Did she comply with that?
No.
Did you send her on December 12th of 2023?
Yes.
Did she comply with that?
No.
Did you send her January 19th of 2023? Or was that supposed to be 2024?
It was.
Okay. Of 2024.
Yes.
Did she go?
No.
And did you send her on February 2nd of 2024?
Yes.
Did she attend?
No.
And on February 22nd of 2024, did you send her to go?
Yes.
And did she screen on that day?
No.
Now, had she previously informed you that she would like to be sent on a Tuesday or a Friday?
Yes.
And on December 12th of 2023, was that a Tuesday?
Yes.
And on January 19th of 2024, was that a Friday?
Yes.
And on February 2nd of 2024, was that also a Friday?
Yes.
And February 22nd of 2024, that was a Thursday, is that right?
Yes.
Now, on August 3rd of 2023, she did actually drug test for you, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was actually a Thursday as well, is that right?
Yes.
And she has gone on other days that were not Tuesdays or Fridays. Is that your understanding from previous dates that you listed in your court report?
Yes.
Now, did Miss Thompson give you any indication as to, well, let me take that back. On those drug screens per your policy and the service plan, did the parents have noticed that if they do not go to a drug screen, that is a presumed positive?
Yes.
Now, did she give you a reason as to why she did not attend these?
She was concerned that having to leave work, she would lose her job.
Okay. And why did she request to go on Tuesdays and Fridays?
So she has Tuesdays and Fridays off because she has visits on Tuesdays and Fridays with Kenna.
So from your understanding, if you'd sent her on a Tuesday and a Friday, which you did request Tuesdays and Fridays, on 3 of those dates, that she was not working that day. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And was it made clear to Ms. Thompson that she needed to drug screen, or those would be a presumed positive for the department?
Yes, it's on her family plan, and I told her that at the beginning of the case.
Now, in regards to, you indicated that it was an issue with, obviously, with the department for not complying with those drug screens. Given the removal was done due to the positive drug screens from the child and the mother during the case, what is the department's concerns with the lack of information regarding her drug use in the past 4 months?
So we really want to see negative drug screens for at least 6 months before we feel comfortable placing the child back in the home with a parent. It's really hard for a parent to be coherent and understanding and being able to supply the child with a safe and stable environment if that parent is still on drugs. And we don't know that Candace is not on drugs.
And given the age of the child, her birthday 2022, is that correct?
Yes.
And so she's not even 2 years old, is that right?
Correct.
And so given her age, is that especially an issue for the department concerning drugs for the child?
Yes.
Drug use, I'm sorry, for the mother on the child.
Yes.
And can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes. So with Kenna's age, she's 100% solely relying on mom for her basic needs, safety, stability throughout her life. And if Candace is still doing drugs, which we have no proof that she's not, it's impairing her ability to safely supervise and care for the child. It puts the child in serious risk and safety of their well-being. and it creates continuing danger to their physical health, mental health, and overall safety.
Now, in regards to Ms. Thompson, not only did she test positive at the beginning of the case, she also in a screen as in August 3rd of 2023, she tested positive for methamphetamine. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is that a concern that we only received, when did we receive negative screens for Ms. Thompson?
We received a negative screen in 9/2023 and in October.
So there were only, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just reading to make sure I'm not missing any. And then there was a negative on 11/22/22, 1/31/2023. I believe that's all the negatives that we have.
Okay, so based on your report and the drug screens that we have in evidence, it appears that at the beginning of the case, she was positive for methamphetamines. And at the beginning of the case after that, in November, December, and January, she was negative on screens. But then, unfortunately, she had a couple of not showing, I'm sorry, and then positive.
Leading, Your Honor.
Sorry,
I object to leading.
sustain.
Now, in regards to her drug screens, does it show a pattern of her being, what does the pattern show of her drug screens?
At the beginning of the case, she was positive. She tested negative a couple times. Then she tested positive a couple times. And then she did not show up to drug screens until probably the summer of 2023 and continued to test positive. In the fall, she tested negative twice and got her visits back. And since having her visits back, she has not drug screened for us.
And her visits were suspended due to court order until she provided a negative UA. Is that correct?
Yes.
And once her visits were continued, she has missed some due to illness, some unknown, weather, and work. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And again, the department did indicate, or did we ask her what day she would be available for visitation?
Yes, Tuesdays and Fridays.
And so if she missed for work, would that be, I guess, contrary to what you had asked her if she was free?
Object to ask and answer.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
Now, do you believe it would be, where's the child currently placed?
In a foster home in Amarillo.
And has the child been placed in the same foster home the entirety of the case?
Yes.
How is the child doing in that foster home?
The child is doing great. She's grown up. She's on target developmentally. She has no significant medical issues. She's doing good there.
And what if the mother's rights are terminated? What is the department's long-term plan for the child?
We would like the child to be adopted. We are going to look into maternal grandmother. And then the foster parents are willing to adopt if we cannot find kinship home.
Okay. And have you had any conversations with the maternal grandmother?
I just got her phone number Friday, so.
Okay. And who did you get her phone number from?
Candace.
And is there a reason why she did not provide this information earlier?
I'm unsure.
Now, regarding the maternal grandmother, you got her information on Friday. Since it's Monday, have you had a chance to reach out to her?
Not yet.
Do you know anything about the maternal grandmother?
Yes, she lives down in Houston. She currently has Candace's other child under her care right now. She seems to be doing well for herself. And Candace said that she is willing to possibly take Kenna in, so we will work with that.
And do you believe it is in the child's best interest for the mother's rights to be terminated?
Yes.
And why do you believe that?
Due to continuing drug use, there's no stability that would ensure that Kenna's going to be safe and stable at this time, especially if Candace is doing drugs. And then the stability in her home. I'm not sure how long she'll be able to live in her current residence, even though she did, I believe, sign a year contract maintaining employment to be able to sustain that residency.
And do you believe, obviously, that the judge should continue the termination that was done on the father?
Yes.
Have you had any contact with Mr. Eaton since that termination?
I have not, no.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Sim, in the report I read, it stated that, I guess on her first OSAR, it recommended Padre, and it said which she started. Did she complete the Padre program?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the second OSAR, it recommended daily recovery for group sessions. Did she comply with that?
Yes, and she completed it.
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Ingram. I'm sorry, Ms. Mullinax first.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Sim, you said you're concerned about, or you're asking for termination due to continuing drug use. You said earlier that there's no proof that Candace is not using drugs. Is that right?
Correct.
And there's no proof that she is using drugs either, is there?
Correct.
With regard to the drug use, you said earlier that you have concerns about her being coherent when she, if she were to have the child. Have there been times that you've met with her since her last negative drug screen in October where she hasn't been coherent?
There's been possibilities during visits that are supervised, but not with me personally, no.
So you haven't seen anything where she hasn't been coherent?
Correct.
And you said that you have concerns about her understanding, I'm guessing, the effects of drug use on the child if she were caring for the child while on drugs?
Yes.
Have you, since October of 2023, had any indication that Candace doesn't have an understanding of the effects that her being under the influence of drugs would have while caring for her child?
If she's continuing to do drugs, then she doesn't understand the negative effects it would have on Kenna if she were to get Kenna back.
Right. So my question is, have you since October evidenced or seen any kind of misunderstanding or not understanding by Candace as to the seriousness of that? Has there been anything since October that you've seen that shows she doesn't understand that she can't be under the influence while having her child?
No.
And you said that she, at the first of the case, she wasn't employed because she had a medical issue due to the birth. Is that right?
To the C-section, yes.
And then she got a job at the laundromat. And do you know when she got fired from the laundromat?
I don't.
Do you know how long she was unemployed before she got the job back at the laundromat?
I believe a few months.
And so would that be fair to say it was around late summer, maybe, if she got, I think you said she got her job back in maybe October?
Yes.
And you said that you believe she got fired because she was having to take off time to work her services. You remember saying that?
Yes.
Did you check with the employment to see if that was the reason?
No, that's the reason Candace gave me.
All right. And this is the same employer that she is now employed with that she got fired previously for taking off work. Is that right?
Yes.
And she told you when that she was off on Tuesdays and Fridays?
Yes.
No, like when did she tell you that?
Probably November.
And was there a point in time where you didn't have contact with Candace at all because something was wrong with your phone or something?
Yes.
When was that?
October 16th through November 12th.
And from October 16th through November 12th, did you have someone else get in contact with Candace, or what happened with that?
Yes. So I think Candace emailed me. She had my email and she was able to reach out to me that way. And then we had our family support worker who was able to get in contact with me with Candace's needs. And then also if Candace expressed any needs when she was at her visit, the HST was able to get in contact with me about her needs.
And you filed a court report with the court in this case, is that right?
Yes.
And does that court report accurately reflect all of the drug screens that Ms. Thompson was sent for?
I believe so.
So if she signed a document at Care Express on December 5th, 2022, you wouldn't have sent her for that?
No, I don't think so.
Was she sent in December 2022?
She was sent. I don't have it on my report that she was sent.
But you have every other month, right?
Yes.
Why didn't you send her in December 22?
I'm unsure.
And with regard to the September and October drug screens of 2023, those were negative, correct?
Yes.
And those were both UAs?
Yes.
And did you have the option to send her for hair follicles in September and October of 23?
Yes.
but you didn't send her for hair follicles. Is that right?
Yes.
And were you visiting Candace once monthly, or how do you visit the parent?
Normally I would show up to her visits. If she has a visit in the office and then she already has the time off, I would go to the visit and see her in the office, or if she was available to meet at the office. If I had to pick her up to take her somewhere, that would count as a visit.
And so in November, December, January, and February, so November 23, December 23, January 24, and February 24, did you visit her to check in with her?
I don't know if it's those exact dates.
I'm just
But I
talking about, I'm not talking about the dates. I'm talking about the months.
I believe so.
And so you said this last Thursday you went to her home and did a mouth cheek swab, correct?
Yes.
So if she wasn't complying with the drug screens in November, December, January, February, why didn't you do that at that point?
I just wasn't asked to.
And with regard to the other services, she's done all of her other services. Is that right?
Yes.
You said that she didn't have stable housing, but you understand she was in a domestic violence shelter for some period of time.
Yes, I do understand that.
And are you aware that she got a protective order against Mr. Eaton?
Yes.
And so you're saying, I believe earlier you said that she had multiple residencies during this case. And would you agree with me that 2 or 3 of those were regarding domestic violence during that period of time?
Yes.
So are you faulting her for going to a domestic violence shelter and getting away from Mr. Eaton?
No, I think I'm just mainly concerned that there isn't a permanent residency.
And prior to leaving to go to the domestic violence shelter, would it be correct that she was in the same residence from the beginning of the case up until whenever she left for the domestic violence shelter?
Yes, she was.
And so she signed a lease almost a month ago now, a few weeks, right?
Yes.
And so given her history of living in a residence for a significant period of time before the domestic violence shelter, why do you have a concern that she won't be able to stay in this residence?
We just like to see 6 months of stable housing.
So St. Francis wants to see 6 months. So that's the concern, is that it hasn't been 6 months. Would that, you agree?
Yes.
And do you know how long she was in a domestic violence shelter?
For a few months.
And that was pretty recently prior to her signing this new lease. Would you agree?
Yes.
And you also said that she had completed, I believe, Padre and daily recovery, but you hadn't seen any improvements. What improvements are you looking for?
So for daily recovery, we just want to see that she's not using drugs. And if she is using drugs, then daily recovery didn't work. There has to be services out there that she's able to work to understand that she cannot use drugs to provide safety and stability to Kenna.
And what about Padre?
Padre, parenting, she completed all of her parenting classes. She does well in her visits.
So when you said earlier that there were no improvements after Padre and daily recovery, it was really daily recovery that the concern was, not Padre.
Correct.
Okay. And do you know when she finished daily recovery?
I believe she finished it back in November
of 2023?
Yes.
And after someone completes daily recovery, do you ever communicate with someone at daily recovery to find out any recommendations or how she did, anything like that?
I spoke with daily recovery and they stated that she completed the program just fine. She did, I believe, kind of like a trauma narrative on drug recovery, and she did well in that.
And so really she did well, but your concern is that she has not drug screened.
Yes.
So if she drug screened today, right after court, would that alleviate your issues?
In 6 months with negative drug screens, I feel like I would feel a lot better.
And you understand we're at the final hearing today, and her having 6 more months isn't happening. You understand that, right?
Yes.
But the last drug screens that you say she did submit to were negative, and that was back in October and September, pretty far ago.
Yes.
And that's actually today would be about 5 months, and so 6 months would have been September. Would you agree?
Yes.
And if she had a hair follicle, is the purpose for a hair follicle to see if she's clean in the long run as opposed to a UA where it's a shorter term?
I believe so. Normally when we do hair follicles, we hope to see the levels lowered over that 3-month period. It just gives us a larger picture of what the drug use looks like.
But you would agree with me that a UA is going to show very recent use and a hair follicle is going to be over a longer period.
Yes.
All right. And you said that she no longer needed to complete couples counseling. That's because she wasn't with Mr. Eaton, correct?
Yes.
You also said that the concerns at the time of the removal were concerns that mother and father would remove the child from the hospital. But would you agree with me that it was only the father that was making the threats to remove her from the hospital?
I don't know about that one. I'm not sure.
Were you able to review any of the exhibits that were admitted into evidence today?
I reviewed all of the drug screens. I did not get to review the document about neonatal.
How about Kenna's medical records? Did you review those?
I did not, unless they're the medical records that I have for her Texas Health Step and her 6-month dental.
And you weren't the investigator on the case, is that right?
Correct.
So would you agree with me that it wasn't really your decision to do a removal in any way?
Correct.
And that you weren't physically there at the hospital during the removal process?
Correct.
And you said earlier that the maternal grandmother was someone that you would be looking into to possibly adopt a child. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were asked why Ms. Thompson didn't give you her phone number previously. She actually has Leanna placed with her because there was an intake. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you know how the child was placed with her? If the
No.
department has her phone number?
No. I don't think St. Francis removed that child.
Did you ever ask Candace for her mother's phone number prior to Friday?
At the beginning of the case, I asked for family members that would be willing to take Kenna in, and I believe they gave me the phone number of Kevin's oldest daughter.
And so since the beginning of the case, you haven't asked for any other phone numbers?
I just kept reminding them to just let me know if there's any family that they know of. And I believe we did discuss that her mom considered moving to Amarillo, but I don't think her mom was able to move to Amarillo, and Candace didn't want to be that far away from Kenna in Houston. If she were to get her rights back, they'd be separated by hours.
Other than not doing the drug screens, what else has Candace done in order to warrant a termination of her parental rights?
For me, it's just the concern that she's still using drugs.
I'm past the witness.
Mr. Ingram?
Peyton, with regard to drug screens, I'm going to direct your attention, please, to your court report and the lists of dates for missed drug screens.
Okay.
You indicate on November 2nd of 2023 that Candace did not go for a drug screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your next entry is December 12th of 2023. You see that?
Yes.
But between those two dates, the last permanency hearing in this case occurred on November 6th of 2023. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And do you further recall that in that permanency order that the mother who was present for that hearing was specifically court ordered by Judge Graham to hair follicle and UA drug screen by the following day on November 7th of 2023. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did she attend that drug screen?
No.
Your Honor, I ask that you take judicial notice of the permanency order from the November 6, 2023 hearing that was signed by this court on November 7th of 2023, indicating that the mother was present in court and was ordered to drug screen by this court by 4 p.m. on November 7th of 2023.
So noted.
Pass witness.
All right. Ms. Wiggins, further questions?
Ms. Sim, in regards to her completion or non-completion of the UAs, is it important for an individual to confirm that they are not using drugs?
Yes.
And was that explained to Ms. Thompson how we needed to see her consistently being negative for illegal substances?
Yes.
And basically the department has a policy, and it was explained to her that it's a presumed positive if she does not appear for a drug screen, correct?
Asked and answered.
Overrule.
Now, in regards to at the time of removal, it's your understanding, and did Ms. Thompson explain to you how did Ms. Thompson explain her drug use to you during the course of the case?
That she wasn't using. I believe that she was on medications that weren't brought up to Care Express. I believe one time it was that a toilet wasn't flushed before she went in to urinate. I don't think she's ever admitted that she's used drugs.
And so is that a concern for the department?
Yes.
And is it a concern, why is it a concern for the department?
I believe part of like drug recovery is admitting that you're using drugs. And secondly, if we can show, if she can work through drug use and continue to give us negative drug screens, overall her well-being and Kenna's well-being is better off.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Mullinax, anything further?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Sim, you said earlier that at the very beginning of the case, you explained to Ms. Thompson that if she didn't go to a drug screen, it'd be presumed positive. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's been about 1.5 years ago. Would you agree?
Yes.
Did you ever explain to her or have that conversation with her ever again after the very beginning of the case?
I believe so. I believe when she didn't go a couple times, I reminded her that it was considered a positive UA.
And with regard to her never admitting to using methamphetamine, is it your understanding that an OSAR can't make a recommendation for rehab if there's not any kind of admission?
Yes. Or I believe that they need drug screens to prove that they are on drugs in order for admission. I'm not sure if it's admission from the parent or the positive drug screens that completes that OSAR.
Would you agree with me that an OSAR evaluation involves a self-report portion where the patient self-reports to the evaluator?
I'm unsure.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right. Anyone else have further questions for Ms. Sim? Okay. Ms. Sim, did Ms. Thompson ever give you an explanation as to why she failed to test for 4 months?
I believe it was missing work, switching shifts at work, being sick. I think those were probably the majority of them.
And when you send over the 2054s that authorizes payment for the drug test, how long is that good for?
It depends. I can normally when I put it in, I can put in a timeline, and I normally give it a 15-day timeline where she can go drug screen in 15 days, but I tell her that she has to do it that day.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, then. Ms. Wiggins, did you have any other witnesses?
Judge, can I ask for a brief break real quick?
Sure. Who do you want?
Just me.
Oh, you just want a break? Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize.
We'll take a 5 to 10 minute break. Okay, Ms. Wiggins, I can't remember. Did you have any other witnesses?
Thank you, Judge. So I was trying to track down my investigator because I had intentions to call her for this case. Found out she's on FMLA. So I am trying to get the Family Medical Leave Act. So I'm having the supervisor try to get on if she can. So I do apologize for that, Judge.
That's fine.
I'm trying to get her. I don't know if you want to proceed with Ms. Mullinax's witnesses and we circle back.
That's fine with me. I've got another final at 1 o'clock, so let's just go ahead with Ms. Mullinax, and then we can come back around to you.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
So, okay, then Ms. Mullinax, witnesses.
Your Honor, I'd call Candace Thompson.
Okay.
And the father is Kevin Eaton. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And was she born on October 7th of 2022?
Yes.
And were you present in the virtual courtroom when Peyton Sim testified?
Yes.
Did you hear her testify about concerns that mother and father were going to leave with the child?
Yes.
Can you tell the court, first off, what happened at the hospital for these alleged concerns?
We were being told by the nurses and staff that Kenna was exhibiting withdrawal symptoms, which we had not witnessed while she was in the room with us, or even while she was in the NICU. On the day that they're saying that we were trying to, we had asked for a second opinion from the NICU pediatricians to re-examine Kenna. She had not had any of the that we noticed. She was not crying. She was not fidgety. She was not. She was having trouble eating or keeping food down, but turned out it was because of a lactose intolerance.
Objection. I'm going to ask the speculation on that one.
Sustained.
Well, hold on. Let me just go ahead and ask you questions. You asked for a second opinion. Were you able to get a second opinion?
No, we were told no.
Okay. And at some point in time, did you attempt to remove the child from NICU?
No, I did not.
Who, if anyone, tried to remove the child from NICU?
Kevin did. He said that he went to BSA for a second opinion since they were not going to give us one at Northwest.
And so did you have anything to do with removing her or attempting to remove her?
No, I did not. I was in the bathroom washing my hands, getting ready to go feed.
Okay. And you did you also hear Ms. Sim testify that you have never admitted to using methamphetamine during this case?
Yes.
Is that correct?
No.
When did you first acknowledge that you had used methamphetamine?
In the investigation part.
And who was the investigator? Do you know?
Her name was Kiki Mahone, Keyshawn Mahone.
All right. And so you say that you admitted it to her. What meth had you used, or when had you used it?
Up until I found out I was pregnant in April. And for about a year prior to that.
And so in April of 2022, is that what you're talking about when you found out you were pregnant?
Yes.
And so after April of 2022, were you using meth at any point in time until the birth of your child?
No.
All right. And have you been given the exhibits in this case?
Yes.
And are you familiar? Have you seen the medical records for Kenna in this case, exhibit number 1?
Yes, I have.
And in those medical records, well, at the hospital, did you make an acknowledgement that you had used methamphetamine prior to the birth of the child?
I was told that I had failed a drug test. The drug test never left the bathroom. And
well, hold on. My question is, at any point while Kenna was in the hospital and you were there, did you notify hospital staff that you had used methamphetamine?
Not that I recall. I was very out of it. My blood pressure was really high, so I don't really remember much from the hospital, but no, not that I recall.
Okay. And then after the child was removed, she never actually came home with you. Is that right?
No, she's never been home.
After the child was removed, did you use methamphetamine after that during this case?
No.
And so you understand, and you've seen the drug screen results from several drug screens where you had a positive hair follicle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any explanation to the court as to why you had a positive hair follicle?
I really do not, other than maybe being around. Like I really don't. I don't know. I know that the levels were significantly lower on the second hair follicle. I don't know why it was still in my hair. Are
you trying to give the judge any excuse as to being positive for methamphetamine in this case today?
No.
At some point in time, before you and Kevin split up, when did you split up in this case?
I left Kevin on October 13th.
Of 2023?
Yes.
And prior to leaving Kevin, did you become aware of his drug use at any point in time?
I did. During the case, yes.
And what did you find out about his drug use during the case?
That he had started using again, I want to say around April or May, and had hidden it from me, and I did not know it.
Hold on, April or May of what year?
2023, sorry.
All right. And did he tell you anything about where he did the drugs or anything like that?
No, not really.
All right. And so at some point in time, were you employed during this case prior to now with the laundromat that you're employed with now?
Yes. I started in January of 2023 and was employed until May of 2023. I believe it was like May 20th. I know I had a job for 5 months and 3 weeks. So it was a week shy of the 6 months that they wanted for employment history.
And was Ms. Sim correct that you were fired from that job?
I was, yes.
And do you know the reason that you were fired from that job?
Yes. the scheduling conflicts and having to work around my visits, having to work around my classes, my daily recovery classes, my domestic violence classes. It was just too much for my boss at that particular location to work around at that time.
And where was that location?
It was on the Western store. It was our tornado number 4.
And are you at that same store or a different store now?
I am not. I am over at tornado number 5, which is on Washington and I-27.
And when did you start working at that store, tornado number 5?
November 29th. It was the day after the hearing for the protective order.
And so from May, I think you said around May 20th until November 29th, what efforts were you making to look for employment?
I was putting in applications anywhere that I could. If I went on to an interview and the first thing that they heard that I had a case and they were going to have to work around my schedule, I never got a call back.
And when you were working from January until about May 20th of 2023 at tornado number 4, do you remember what days of the week you had off?
Tuesdays and Fridays for my visits, although we were very short staffed and there were a lot of afternoons after my visits that I would have to go into work.
And from November 29th until now, what are your scheduled days off, if any?
Tuesdays and Fridays as well. Most Tuesdays and Fridays, though, I do have to go in the afternoon because we are short staffed.
And so you heard testimony about several drug screens you missed. Would that be accurate to say? You heard that?
Yes.
Okay. And so there was a testimony that you missed a drug screen on November 2nd, 2023. Can you tell the court why, if you missed that, and why?
I had a visit that morning with Kenna, and my starter on my vehicle had gone out. At that point, Leanna and I were staying in Dumas at a different domestic violence shelter. A friend of mine came to Dumas to pick us up and bring us down for my visit. And then due to him having to go out of town, he was going to drop us back in Dumas on his way out of town. Since I still did not have a vehicle at that point, it was still with the mechanic.
And let me go ahead and ask, you went to a domestic violence shelter when?
October 13th.
And so from October 13th through November 2nd, I think we just talked about, were you at one or more than one shelter?
I was at more than one. I started here at the one in Amarillo that Family Support Services put me in. And then there was an incident where Kevin located me at the safe house. And so due to concerns of safety for not only me and Leanna, but for the rest of the girls at the house, the shelter felt the need to place me somewhere else.
And then I want to go, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's when they moved us to Dumas.
Okay. And so you didn't really have, would you agree that you didn't really have a say to move to Dumas? It was just, that's where they sent you?
Yes. Yes.
All right. And then it's not in the report, but Mr. Ingram mentioned that there was a hearing on November 6th that you were ordered to drug screen before the end of the day, November 7th. What happened with that day?
I honestly don't remember. I honestly don't even remember being ordered to drug screen that day. So.
Okay. And then there's another one, December 12th. Do you remember what happened on that date?
I believe I was working. I believe. Hold on. Let me double check. Yeah, I was working that day.
And so that was a Tuesday. So were you scheduled to be off that day, or do you know?
I know I had a visit that morning. We had a mandatory meeting that afternoon, and then I worked and closed that afternoon. I had to be in at 12 so that my boss could prepare for the meeting. And so there was not enough time between the end of my visit and me having to be at work to go in drug school.
And what time are your visits on Tuesdays and Fridays?
From 9 to 11.
All right. And then on January 19th, that was a Friday. So do you have any information on why you didn't go that day?
I went that day. I don't know why they were saying that I did not.
Where were you sent? Remember?
Care Express. I went to Care Express to see if I could get my records myself. And they said that they did not have a record of me being there that day, which I don't understand.
When you go to drug screen, do you sign something or what's the process?
they'll take me back, and then I sign the custody order paper when I am done with my screen. I normally have them. I've kept all of them. My car was borrowed and cleaned out by a friend, and she accidentally threw that away. At that point, basically, all of my stuff, especially my important stuff, was in my car because I did not have my own place yet, and I did not want any of my important papers to get misplaced with the friend that I was staying with at that point. And sorry, go ahead.
What's the first day that you found out that that St. Francis didn't have results for that? Or even, sorry, that St. Francis didn't even have record of you going for that drug screen?
I'm gonna go with today because I did not know that they did not have it.
Well, let me ask you this. We went to mediation. I'm not asking you what happened in mediation, but we went to mediation, right?
Yes.
Did you learn that day?
I did. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right. What about February 2nd?
I had to cancel my visit on February 2nd in order to be at mediation on the 7th. I canceled that visit a week in advance with Bianca. It was in the notes that I was canceling my visit because I had to work that day. I had to switch the day with my boss because our pay period goes from Thursdays to Wednesdays. So in order for me to be off on Wednesday, I had to switch with my boss the prior Friday to work.
And then what about February 22nd of this year?
I was at work.
And you said you're talking about your boss. Is this a different boss or the same boss that you got fired by before?
No, different manager.
Okay. And so have you asked off and been able to take off to go do drug screens from this manager?
No, the one in January, which was, I was already off for the one in January. The one in February on the 2nd, like I said, I had to switch in order to have mediation off. There was no way that I could have gone and told her, hey, I've got to go drug screen right now. Can you come in? Even though I'm supposed to be here working.
So at the laundromat, is there more than one person working at a time, or how does it work at the laundromat?
We have one person on shift during the daytime. On the weekends, there's 2 people Saturday and Sunday afternoons, but we are so short-staffed at all 5 locations that there is not anybody extra to come in to assist or come in and cover a shift if someone has to leave.
And this is the same employer you were fired from previously?
Different manager, but the same employer, yes.
You have to work today too, is that right?
Yes.
If the judge were to send you, what are you going to do today?
I'm gonna talk to my manager and let her know that I've got to go drug screen.
What time are you supposed to be at work?
I'm supposed to be there at 2.
And with regard to the other services, is Ms. Sim correct that you've completed basically every other service?
I have completed every service that they have requested.
And you have a new residence that you signed a lease for in February, is that right?
Correct.
Tell the court the size of that and where it's located. I don't want an address because I think we're on YouTube, but the area.
It's located close to downtown. It is a efficiency duplex. It's got a good sized living room, a good sized bedroom, kitchen. Basically, it's about 600 square feet. It's about a one bedroom apartment. It's in a good area. It's well lit. I don't really.
I'm sorry. Let me interrupt. If she's got to be at work at 2, I'm going to recess now and order that she immediately go to Care Express to Hair Strand and UA drug screen. So, and then we will get. I don't know how long does it usually take to get those results back?
I would say about a week.
And I want to get this over with as soon as I can. How long? I forget, Ms. Wiggins. How long do you have to have your business records affidavit in? 14 days.
Yeah.
We'll either come back after that 14 days, or if everybody wants to waive that requirement and just file the drug test results, we can get back together sooner. So y'all can talk about that. Let my office know when the drug test results are back. If we need to reconvene, well, we're going to have to reconvene. You've got another witness. So we'll decide when we're going to reconvene. That depends on whether or not everybody waives the 14-day requirement. So I want that drug test today. Ms. Thompson, if you don't go today, don't bother to go tomorrow. It won't matter to me.
No,
So-
that's fine. I'll go today.
Okay. All right.
And
Then we're
Judge,
gonna,
I'm sorry, she can go ahead and go, but can we let my witness in to let him know that we're going to reschedule
Sure.
and that he needs to appear?
actually,
whenever-
your witness disappeared.
Oh,
Only
okay,
person, only person in the waiting room is Melody Zuniga. You want me to bring her in, Miss Wiggins?
I'll just communicate
let-
with her. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I
So,
appreciate that. And
Basically,
it's here in UA, is that correct?
here in UA, and just basically let my office know when they're back and whether or not we can waive the 14-day requirement, and then I'll set it just as quickly as possible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll be back at 1 o'clock to call another final hearing on a Randall County case on the Tolbert.